Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of the Sharing Club podcast. Just a quick recap for those of you who don't know. I'm Danielle.
And I'm Natalie.
And we're here, the Sharing Club here is to support all people going through mental health issues, living with various types of chronic illness, incurable illness, people who've suffered domestic abuse, anything that might create an issue in your life, we are here to support you.
Yeah, any bereavement issues or anything like that, or maybe just lacking support.
Yeah, we run talk groups, we plan to do different activities. Obviously, we're doing the podcast, and we're planning a launch event on the 18th of May, a Sunday. So we'd love to see everybody there. And you can find all the details about who we are, what we do, and when the event is on our website, which is www.thesharingclub.org. And you can email us at info@thesharingclub.org, and we are on all social media platforms too, so you can DM us across any of them.
Yeah, we just need to get a little bit more active on TikTok because we've let that one slide a little bit, but we'll be back.
We can break these down and put bits on now, which would be really good. So this week's subject, we're looking at the stigma that surrounds mental health issues, whether that's cultural stigma due to religious beliefs, or if it's workplace stigma or stigma you put on yourself. We're going to be doing a deep dive into some of those different types of stigma and the impacts it can have on us and our mental health.
Yeah, and we'd love to hear from you, especially if you're of any kind of ethnic minority and you've suffered with any kind of mental health issues yourself, and there's been a stigma attached, because obviously it'd be great to hear from you, because we've obviously not got that experience. So we want you to come forward and we can have a bit of ask you a few questions and find out a little bit about what happens in your community.
I mean, like, we're both Jewish.
Yeah.
And there is definitely some stigma within the more religious.
You see, I didn't know that.
More religious end of the community. I don't think it's as bad as in other maybe religions, but it's definitely there. I've worked for a kids charity, and there's definitely a lack of, my children don't have these issues, wouldn't happen to them. They come from strong, supportive, loving families, but actually nobody is immune to mental health problems. No. And you might, just because you've got a strong, happy childhood or a good family home, you can't control your mental health and your thoughts.
No, you don't know, do you, if you're going to be affected or not? No. And just to brush it under the carpet, it's not helpful for anyone.
No, so we're definitely going to look at, how different cultures and religions see mental health issues. And again, the different types of stigma away from religion, whether that's public or it's self-stigma, or there's such a thing we discovered when we were doing a bit of research as structural stigma. It makes it sound like a building site.
Yeah, that's a bit of a strange one. And obviously there's the male side as well, which obviously we're getting a little bit better now that men are talking a little bit more, but there has been a big stigma with men's mental health.
Relating to different sexes, and that definitely women are more open to dealing with it and talking about it, although I might prove the exception to the rule. There's always one, and I like to be it. For those of you that listened to the previous podcast might have discovered. But anyway, shall we get on to maybe diving into some of these different types of stigma? So we'll leave the religious ones till a bit later, and first of all we'll go into some of the more generic types. So there's something called public stigma, and this is a negative or discriminating attitude that other people might have just out in the general public. So if you discuss mental health issues, they might look at you and go, I don't believe in all that stuff, therapy and counselling. I think it's all a waste of time. What you doing with that? Why have you got mental health issues? You have a good job, you've got
nothing to worry about, you've got a lovely life. It's all about positive mental attitude. You just need to be more positive. How many times do people say that? I've had that.
Drives me insane.
I've had that. You just need to get up every day and be really positive.
Doesn't work like that.
It doesn't.
Really doesn't work like that. You can't help how you feel. Doesn't matter what you've got around you. If something has caused you to feel this way, you can't help it. You can't control it. Yes, you can have therapy to try and deal with it, but it's still there.
Yeah.
And having all the money, they say money doesn't buy you happiness. So if money doesn't buy you happiness, and that's a well accepted thought process, and saying why justify saying, well, you have a nice home, you've got a good job, you have a family. It's the same principle. Those things don't necessarily buy you happiness.
You only have to look at the celebrity culture, don't you? The amount of suicides there are, and people that take drugs, have drink problems. and people would look and go, they've got everything. They've got the perfect partner. They've got this lifestyle. They're famous, but they're not happy.
No, and public people.
My washing's out. Training.
Public people, people in the public that have got the press following them and making their lives misery. They're living in a goldfish spot.
I'd hate that.
I would hate that. I can't think of anything worse.
No,
I feel really sorry for people when you've got that press intrusion. It's horrific, and I know firsthand what that press intrusion's like. And if they don't talk, they'll say anything. I lost a friend, and I've mentioned it in the past in other podcasts, and the way he died in the accident, it was horrific. I'm not going into detail today because it'll set me off, but needless to say, it was all over the local news. It made national news, but his family wouldn't talk to the press. So rather than do a bit of research and get the genuine facts, he just made up a load of lies about him. And he was just a 23-year-old lad minding his own business, living his life, not in the public eye. But because they didn't get the story or nobody would speak to them, they felt justified
in saying, make it up.
Yeah.
That's shocking. That is awful.
I can understand why celebrities get the way they do, because if they can do that to a normal person, imagine the pressure they're under. So having money, having the lifestyle definitely doesn't buy your mental health.
No. And it's the impact it has on everyone around that person, obviously the family and the friends. Yeah. Awful, absolutely awful.
I mean, it got proved that there was nothing going on there, and he hadn't done anything wrong or anything. Well, he wasn't acting stupid like they tried to make out, but just money and lifestyle, celebrity or otherwise, or the perfect job doesn't bring you happiness.
No.
Doesn't guarantee that you're not going to have mental health issues. So that's public stigma. The next one is self-stigma, and that's where we internalize our shame. We feel guilty, we feel shame because we've got a mental health issue and we don't like to talk about it. And I think that internal shame brings in a lot of other mental health issues, because if you've got internalized shame, is that where self-harm starts to come in?
Yeah, I'd imagine it is.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, I know myself, when, not so much now because I'm much better, but when you're extremely depressed or very, very anxious, I do often have this thing of, why are you being weak? And it's not weak, is it? No. It's not a weakness, but people often perceive it as a weakness. They'll be like, pull yourself together. I think for men as well, it
Definitely
can be very,
for men.
Pull yourself together. You need to just get on with it. But I don't think you do. I think you need to deal with what's causing you the upset and talk. Because otherwise it's not going to go anywhere. It's just going to eat you up. And like you said, probably leads to things like self-harm.
Yeah, I do it all the time. If I'm having a bad day, I try and not rationalize it, but I try and sort myself out, think, why are you feeling like this? Yes, there's some stuff that's not great, but you've got a family, you've got a roof over your head, there's so much to be grateful for, and that's true. And I do try and practice gratitude, but you sort of make yourself feel guilty for not having a good day and for struggling.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't, because you can't help how you feel.
No. And then it just starts a cycle, doesn't it? You feel worse then.
Yeah, it's a vicious circle, isn't it? It's a self-perpetuating cycle that you can't get out of. And you shouldn't feel guilty. And if you having a day where just getting out of bed and getting dressed
is an achievement,
it's a win, isn't it? And you take that win. And if that's, if you've been in bed for 2 days and struggled to get out of it because you feel so bad, then that is a huge win, isn't it? And then the next day, if you can get out of bed and maybe make yourself a coffee or put a bit of makeup on it, if that's what you want to do or you would like doing, or you think it'll feel better, again, that's another win. It's another step. You shouldn't feel ashamed that you can't do more. You should take the little wins and be proud of them and build on them.
Yeah.
Never feel shame.
No, just create a few little, we've discussed this before, haven't we? Like creating, a few little things for the week, little small achievements. I want to do this, I want to do that. And don't worry about achieving them all, just try and achieve one.
Yeah.
It does make you feel great if you do set out to do something and actually do it.
If you can have a day, and it might just be if you have a day where you don't think to yourself, I don't want to wake up in the morning, then that is a huge goal, isn't it? And there's no shame if you feel like that.
I felt like that. So many times, and quite a lot recently.
It's horrendous, and then you feel guilty for thinking about it, but you shouldn't, because you can't help.
You can't help how you feel.
No. So definitely self-stigma. We all need to be a little kinder to ourselves.
Yeah.
And then the next one is structural stigma, which I just find it a really weird description, and this is systematic stigma involving government policies. It might be private organisations that limit opportunities for people with mental health issues towards jobs, how they can work. People might struggle to find a job because of mental health issues, and they might need the time. Obviously, I appreciate companies, employ people to do a job, and it can impact the business if staff are unreliable, but there's ways of working around it. And I think structural stigma is playing a huge part in why, as a society, there's so many people out of work now.
There was actually an article in the paper about a couple of days ago that I was reading about a young girl who's took her own life. And she's had bipolar for many, many years, and obviously hidden it. And then the company that she worked for became aware of her bipolar and kept using it as a tool to bully her.
That's disgusting.
And then it led to her leaving her job and then going on a bit of a downward spiral. And that's just disgusting.
Isn't it? The thing is, if she's hidden it successfully and she's been doing her job perfectly well with no issues,
Exactly.
suddenly finding out about it shouldn't change anything. If
No.
anything, they should think, wow, she's great, she's got this health issue, but she's living with it, she's working, she's doing her job perfectly
Yeah.
well. Let's make sure nothing happens to undermine that and to support and not go in the opposite direction. Look at somebody, oh, well, that's a weakness, let's bully them because
let's jump on that weakness.
Yeah.
There should be more support in the workplace. I don't know, I don't know enough about enough companies to know whether these days there is things in place. I don't know, but there should be. There should always be, because like well, I was going to say like a physical disability, they have to make,
allowances.
Yeah, it should be the same for your mental health. I'm not saying, oh, every Monday they can have a day off because they're feeling down from the weekend. I don't mean like that. I mean constant support where somebody's checking in on them. Are you okay? It only takes a little chat in the morning, doesn't it? Are you okay?
Are you managing your work?
Is there anything we can do?
Yeah, that we can support you
Yeah.
with to make it a bit better. You're doing a great job, but if there's anything extra that we can do to make it work, because we value you as an employee, then let us know.
I mean, how hard would that be, really?
No. And it goes around, I think, like during COVID and lockdown, there was so much flexible working and hybrid working. A lot of companies are now all back to the office, and that's great. But for some people, hybrid or flexible, if that helps them work, if they've got a mental health issue and it enables them to have a job and to do that job successfully, then I think let's do that. Let's have that conversation. Companies, be open and supportive. You're going to get more people back into the workplace, and that's what they're saying
they want to do.
Yeah, but it's not a two-way street, is it?
No, it actually annoyed me, but when they were saying about, people who've got mental health, they're not ill, because they were trying to make out they weren't ill. Mental illness is such a challenge, and it can be really, really debilitating. It can be more debilitating than a physical health problem.
I mean,
I've seen it with my dad. I mean, my dad managed to work all his life. He's retired now, but how he did it, I will never know.
I like growing up when we were younger, and I think of coming round to your house, your dad, when he could hide it very well.
Oh my God, it was like Robin Williams.
And he was a mate, you'd go around and he'd just laugh and tell jokes, and you would never know your dad had that.
No, I don't know how, because he's been manic depressive my entire life, obviously a lot worse now. But I look at someone like my dad is now, and he's a recluse, and think, imagine a younger person who has to go to work being as bad as he is now. I don't know how.
Whereas
they need support.
If you can work from home and be that recluse at home, but do a job, because you can manage to get out of bed and sit at a computer screen, then go for it. If you can do your job, so be it.
They just need to be given opportunities and support.
But I do get there's a lot of people who take advantage of the system, especially because mental health is so much easier to do, isn't it, to play that system?
It's easier to say, well,
because there's no physical.
Than like a scan report or whatever.
I understand that there's probably a lot of skepticism, but genuine people who are struggling, if you can say, actually, I'm under the doctor, I am on meds, you shouldn't have to justify yourself, but if you can show that, then be supportive, because structural stigma, it's never going to improve the situation, is it? There needs to be an open and frank conversation around all types of stigma.
And so many young people with mental health problems now as well.
And I think
probably stems back from COVID.
I was just going to say, I think the lockdowns had a big impact on that.
So
socially awkward, don't know how to interact with people.
You become like institutionalized, don't you? Because you're not going out and you're not mixing. So it's very, very difficult.
Me and my mum were talking about it earlier with Nips Morrison's and the garden centre bit, the little garden centre thing that they have outside, like the greenhouse at the one at Whitefield. They've restocked it already for the summer. Me and my mum was saying, like, during COVID and during lockdown, that was a lifesaver, because you have your walk. We used it 5-10 minute walk. We used to walk to Morrison's if we needed anything, get some stuff and wander around the little garden centre bit, and it was something to do.
Yeah.
Just to get you out, to keep, you know, people who didn't go out at all or do it, I don't know how.
No.
I mean, my mental health would be beyond on the floor if I hadn't been able to get out and do those little things, and keep a bit of normality.
Yeah, it was horrible time. Not for everyone. Some people liked it. I didn't.
No, I genuinely hated it.
Very isolating.
It really was. And you watch TV programs from in the past where everything was normal, and you think, I want that life.
Yeah. And we're not even back to normal. We've never been normal since, have we?
I don't think so.
I don't think the world's returned to normal.
Well, they always said that, the new normal.
The new normal.
And it really is.
I hate that.
And it's had
unprecedented times. That was like the word of the, wasn't it? Everything was unprecedented.
And the impact it's had, the knock-on effect now, is just cost of living.
Everything.
And I think that in itself now, financial worries because of that, is also causing mental health
And I bet there's a lot of people embarrassed by that as well.
That is a major,
you know, because people aren't going to want to say, are they, that, you know, can't afford, oh, do you want to come to such a place? And a lot of people might not want to say that they can't afford it, but it's a reality.
Absolutely. It's really hard. Never again. And when I look back, I think I would never comply like that again.
Oh no, I wouldn't.
Not a chance.
I keep getting notifications telling me to go and get my jab all the time.
No.
I think if I'd have listened by now, I would have had about 7 more.
Absolutely not.
I only had the first 2.
I had the third one purely because I was moving abroad and I wouldn't have got in that country. It was like having a gun held to your head. I had no choice.
Terrible, isn't it?
But if I hadn't made that move, I wouldn't have had that third one.
I just had the 2. But I wish I'd not.
I think long term there's a lot of health issues are gonna come out of them.
Yeah, I do.
But
anyway,
that's another story which I'm not going there.
No.
So some of the harmful side effects of these stigmas can be a reduction in hope. You lose all hope and for the future and positivity. You have lower self-esteem, which if you're already suffering with mental health issues, your self-esteem is going to be low anyway. So have it even lower is never going to be a positive.
Yeah.
You have increased psychiatric symptoms. So I suppose that then takes you into realms of bipolar, maybe, I suppose, even possibly going into schizophrenic, self-harm issues, difficulty within social relationships, relating to people, being able to socialize, go out, do everyday stuff with friends and family. You might struggle to maintain those relationships. You're less likely to seek treatments because of the stigma. You're afraid to speak out and say how you're feeling, so you don't go and get the help you need, which then causes another spiral where you end up becoming worse and getting into that vicious circle. And as we discussed, because of the structural, more difficulties within the workplace, which I think we've covered quite well.
Yeah, I do.
So there are some of the different types of stigma. And then we move on to the ones that are brought out or caused through culture or religion.
And these are things that we'd love to hear from you, your experiences, if you've got any. Because I don't know much. I know it goes on, but I don't know much about it.
Or the extent of it. Are you maybe struggling with mental health, but because of your religious beliefs, your background, your family and friends, that community, are you frightened to come out? Does it scare? Are you worried how people react? Does it put you off talking about it? Do you find a comfort in your religion? Maybe a lot of religions, for some people, they find the practice of prayer and spirituality quite comforting.
Yeah, it's like a form of therapy, isn't it?
Yeah.
But then I know, like when you look back in the day, they used to think that people who were mentally ill were like possessed by a demon.
Well, yeah, I mean, we were looking at some of the, and I'm sure the more historical, well, I'd like to think they don't go on now, although there is still stigma around it.
Well, it wasn't mental illness, but a few years back, I went on holiday with a friend who's not a friend anymore. And I had an epileptic seizure when we were on holiday on the beach, and there was another friend with us, and she turned around to the other friend and said that I was possessed by the devil.
Oh.
Now, this girl was, I don't know, she was Muslim, but I'm not sure. I didn't realize she was, you know, really into her beliefs. But obviously that belief has come from somewhere,
Absolutely.
because we were like completely
shocked.
by it. Yeah, it was almost like going back in the old. I was like, what? And my other friend was, I thought it was absolutely disgusting. But that was a seizure. But then obviously, does that carry on to what if somebody was having a mental health episode? You know, I'd
Definitely.
imagine she would feel the same. But very, very interesting to think that that actually goes on. That
Well,
people think
it
that.
is interesting. And when we looked at, we did the research before we did this podcast, and we were online and we were looking, both set parts of Christianity and Islam have this thing where they believe that mental health is people with mental health issues are possessed by the devil, and that they can be cured through worship, or it's a result of the evil eye. Where did these come? Is it a lack of understanding from years ago when people didn't understand mental health, so they had to attribute it to something? So it was like, oh, they've been possessed because they're acting strange.
Yeah.
When, you know, religion was so much bigger in people's lives.
I think they used to do, I'm not sure what culture, but you know, like black magic, to try it, like they thought they were like possessed, so they'd use like certain like black magic and voodoo to try and get rid of whatever was the possession.
Yeah.
But I mean, surely you'd think this wouldn't go on now, but does it? You know, if you're listening to this and it resonates and you think, oh, my culture, this is what happens, you know, this is why we don't talk about it, please get in touch.
Yeah. And is it maybe, if it does happen, is it older generations as opposed to younger?
Yeah, as it kind of like,
Is it petering
weeded
out?
out? Yeah, you'd think it would, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
You'd think.
younger people who are now growing up in this country a bit more acclimatized, so you know, mixing a bit more, open to newer ideas and cultures. Are they starting to see actually that's not the case? Are they more, are younger people more open to treat them than maybe older generations?
You'd like to think so, wouldn't
Because
you?
regardless of religion, older generations, you just didn't discuss mental health, did you? It was pushed under the
No, very,
carpet.
very
It was a
different.
stigma. You ended up in a mental asylum and you were locked away, never to be
Yeah.
seen again, and you weren't talked about. So is it a generational thing as much as a religious thing, maybe?
Yeah. Yeah. What's that film? That film. Oh, it's, have you ever seen Girl Interrupted?
Yes.
Yeah,
With
that
Winona
when they're all,
Ryder.
yeah, and then she's not really, she's not like the others, is she?
No.
And then she ends up in there, and then there's all different degrees of the people's mental health. But I know it's only a film, but that gives you a really good insight into like, oh my gosh, like, you know, you've got somebody who struggles with eating disorders, you've got somebody who's schizophrenic. Is Angelina Jolie schizophrenic? I can't remember her character, but you know, but that film was set in the older days, wasn't it?
Yeah, but there's lots of programs that tackle it, isn't it? So I watched Call the Midwife, and that's set, obviously it starts in the 50s and it's up to 1970. But even then, there was still like mental health asylums and people who had mental health issues that were locked away in these institutions.
They
And
used to give him electric shock treatment,
yeah, I
didn't
was just
they?
going to say one of the characters was given electric shock.
Yeah.
Main characters
God.
in it. Whereas the doctor who'd had mental health issues, the GP, he's very understanding of mental health issues. But yeah, is it not that it's maybe a religious thing, but it's a generational thing that these religious, you know,
Maybe.
older generations
Yeah.
now more than anything else.
Yeah.
Then other things in the religion, it's considered a sign of weakness or sin, leading to shame, which is very, very sad, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it is.
And people think it's a sin to feel ill.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Some religions find it difficult to discuss these issues because of these beliefs that you're possessed or it's a sin. For other people, they find so it can be a source of comfort, their faith, and they turn to their faith. So does your faith actually help you rather than make it worse? Do you find support? Do you find comfort in practicing your religion?
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose for some people, I know my auntie is a Catholic and she goes to church every Sunday. And I know for her, being around her, like the worshippers, and they all do prayer together and they all sing, she takes great comfort in that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm Jewish. I'm not the most religious person in the world, but we have our Sabbath on a Friday. It starts on a Friday evening and goes through Saturday, and I've got a lot of very religious friends. And also, I think it's one of the best things to come out of it. It's you're not meant to do anything. You don't work, you shouldn't have your phones on, everything's switched off, cook your food in advance, put timers on for hot plates to warm it up, whatever. And it's a time to come together with friends and family and eat, and then
And
we'll go off
talk.
to sleep and talk. You've not got all this social media around you. You switch off, your TV's not on, you're not on your phone, you shouldn't be reading papers, you shouldn't be writing. It's a time to reset. And I think it might be a religious practice, but I think it's an amazing thing to have, because it's 25 hours to properly
I
unwind.
think it'd be helpful if everybody practiced that, you know, as in like, right, I mean, it will never happen, but if you could just go, right, tonight into tomorrow, we're having no social media, we're having no phones, we're not having the TV on, we're just going to sit around, we're all going to chat as a family,
Have a nice meal.
yeah, eat a meal together, play some games, whatever, but just together as a family and talk. Because I think nowadays what most families are lacking in is discussion.
Family time.
Nobody talks
I mean, you shouldn't go to the shops either. So you're spending your time actually
together. Yeah.
You might go for walks to the park or whatever, but you're spending time together. You're not out spending money shopping. You're not on the laptop reading the news, getting depressed by what's going on in the world. It's just a full-on 25-hour reset, and it does you the world of good. And that's a religious thing, but I think it goes back to when did Sunday trading come in the early 90s? I think this country was so much better.
Yeah.
Pre-Sunday trading, all families had a day off. They knew on a Sunday there was no work. They were at home, time together.
Yeah.
I think the deterioration in it.
Yeah, now it's just everything's just busy. Too many distractions, too much going on. Everybody's interested in what everybody else is doing rather than what their own family are doing. It's just
there's no switch off, is there?
You can see though, can't you, why mental health is so bad?
Yeah, all these things have an impact on it.
It's terrible.
So I think religion, some of its older generational beliefs may be very negative, but I think also there's some very positive things that come out of it that you can adapt and can definitely help. It's 25 hours of self-care, isn't it?
It's a shame we just can't all adapt it into what you could do, but you'd have to get your whole family on board, wouldn't you?
I think that's one of the reasons why I really respect Smith's Toy Store, because they don't open on Sundays. Even at, is it Smith? Yeah, not Smith's, it's the Entertainer, isn't it?
Yeah,
So
the Entertainer, they don't open.
They don't open on a Sunday, and they must know they're losing out on business to places like Smith's, but fair play to them, because they respect family time and time out. Everybody's entitled to a day off.
Yeah.
It's like Boxing Day, isn't it? Years ago, the shops never opened.
Oh God, no! And now it's all like, oh, let's get there at 6 and queue for the sales.
I don't understand.
I've never done that in my life.
What pleasure you could possibly get from waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go and queue to stand outside next for sale items.
I used to work in retail, but sorting the sale out for the Boxing Day was an absolute nightmare.
No, I can't think of anything worse than working in retail, especially around Christmas.
It was horrific. Wasn't my favourite job in the world, but anyway.
Don't blame you. I think I'd be useless at it.
I was actually quite good. I'm not blowing my own trumpet. I was actually quite a good little salesperson, but I worked in a clothes shop. But yeah,
I remember that.
Yeah.
See, I worked
in 2 clothes shops.
I worked in sales because I was an estate agent, but it's a completely different type of sales skills, selling a house, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I definitely think that there are things you can take from religion that would be useful.
Yeah.
Like having time out.
Family time.
Correct. And I think that covers all the different.
Yeah. But like we said, we'd really love to hear from you. So if anything we've said resonates with you and you've got any experience of, your community or where you've gone for help and it's not been perceived in the right way, or you take comfort in your religion, like we said, you go to the mosque, you go to the synagogue, wherever you go for your prayer, we'd love to hear from you, wouldn't we?
Yeah, whatever gives you support and helps you get through it and breaks down some of those barriers and those stigmas, that whether the self-stigma, structural, public, religious, whatever works for you or doesn't work for you, what prevents you from talking, we'd love you to get involved in the conversation and expand on it and hear your thoughts.
Come along, let's have a Zoom and a chat.
Definitely, we're always up for Zoom. That way we're not waffling on as much.
Yeah, we can ask you some questions about you.
And you can waffle.
Yeah.
That would be really good.
Yeah, definitely.
And if you have any questions as well, to be fair, on what we've discussed, we're happy to try and answer them all.
You can ask me anything. I'm an open book. Within reason.
Yeah, always clarify within reason.
Within reason.
I think that's it.
Yeah, so that's it. So if you want to get in touch,
as I mentioned before, you can do that in all the usual ways. You can email us at info@thesharingclub.org. You can access any of our social media sites. I promise we keep saying this. We are going to start using TikTok more.
Yeah, I think we need to. It's very, very popular, isn't it?
Yeah, it definitely has the one where
Yeah.
the best algorithms for
Yeah.
business for us to get out there. But you can Sharing Clubs on LinkedIn, we're on
Insta,
Facebook.
get in touch.
Yeah, and under Tally's talk group as well.
Yeah, jump on there. Let's have a chat. I always put little polls up and stuff that you can take part in.
Yes, we put lots of useful hints and tips on. Hints and tips. Get the words out. Tips and hints is the one. Of things you can do and so on. So please feel free to get in touch in any of those ways. Our website is www.thesharingclub.org. Lots of information on there. Gives you a bit more about us and our background, why we're here, doing what we do, as we mentioned before.
And come to the launch.
Yes, Sunday the 18th of May at the Feel Good Studio in Radcliffe, Albert Works. We're running it in conjunction with Karen from Feel Good Therapists, who runs the studio. You know, come and speak to her if you're looking for a massage or trigger point therapy or lymph drainage, Reiki. She offers it all.
I need somebody. I'm going to speak to her today.
Lots of activities that can help, and we'll hopefully, you know, all tickets that go on sale will be collectible from there as well. So if you're interested in that, definitely get in touch. And until then, have a great week.
Have a great week. Bye.
See you soon. Bye.